On today's World Insight, we speak to Chinese students studying in the U.S. and the U.K. Have they been able to dispel biases against China on campus? And they're the rising stars of Macau. We get up close and personal with Meccani's pop group MFM. And here's our host, Tian Wei.
Hello and welcome to World Insight. I'm Tian Wei. In today's program, we focus on the youth making a difference. First, I speak to 6 Chinese students studying in America. In the current climate of tension between China and the U.S., how have these students assumed the role of cultural ambassadors? Will young people solidify the bilateral ties that have eluded their governments? Take a look. And I'm joined by, on my right side, Roger, Sean, Jesse. Meanwhile, on my left side, we have Kathy, Tony, and Felix. What a pleasure to see you. So maybe you help us to understand who you are and where you're coming from. Roger?
So my name is Roger, just graduated from Cornell University. Before I graduated, I was majoring in hotel administration, minoring in real estate.
And now?
Now I just graduated, trying to figure out my career path and all that.
Okay. What about you, Sean?
Right. Hi. My name is Sean, and I'm currently a third-year undergrad doing engineering science at Oxford in the UK.
And?
Hello. My name is Jesse. I'm from Cornell. I just graduated last summer, and right now working in China with Tony for a fintech startup.
And what about for you, Kathy?
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm a junior at Brandeis University. I'm the co-president of our student association, majoring applied math and econ.
Wonderful. And Tony?
Hello, I'm Tony, currently taking a gap year from Harvard Business School. And my friends Jesse and I returned back to China 3 years ago, starting a fintech company.
And last but not least, Felix.
Hi, my name is Felix, and I'm taking a master at Columbia University right now, the fourth year. And I'm the co-founder and the president of the Chinese Overseas Student Conference.
As China rises, there seems to be so many different kinds of understanding about China. I'm sure whether you are studying in your university or already graduating, now trying to look for another stage of your career, would have different access to these very different mixed understanding. Tell me about what you think about them. You want to go first, Jesse?
Yes, because I stayed in Cornell for 4 years. You know, Cornell is a very interesting place. It's so far away from major cities in the U.S. It's like a school in countryside, in middle of nowhere. But you know, in Beijing, it's totally different. It's like metropolitan. We got the share bike, we got WeChat Pay, we got Alipay, we got all of these application of the most advanced technology in China. That's so different. It takes me a while to adopt the new life in China, actually, yeah.
But what do you make of the various ways how people portray China?
You know, in the classroom of U.S., China is always a hot topic among professors and students. So we discuss a lot about China. The first one is the business world of China. So they are very interested in what happens in China. You know, Alibaba, Baidu, Tencent, TikTok. We have all of these new companies in China. They are creating new business model. So Americans are starting to learn from China to do business, to run technology company. I think that's one interesting point. And the second one is ourselves, Chinese students. We start to recognize us as a representative ambassador of China because we are representing the Chinese culture. We are the way others will perceive China. So I think we have the responsibility to show the core value, to show the virtues of Chinese. We're hosting different events representing Chinese culture, like the Chinese New Year Gala, Mid-Autumn Gala, all of these events showing them how Chinese celebrate their family, how Chinese unite together.
Yeah. Kathy, do you think you have that such huge amount of responsibilities, or just be a student, you know, be the natural you?
When in class, I feel like there are like some bias toward Chinese students.
Really?
That Chinese students are a little nerdy, or we only focus on studying. But like, unlike Jessie said, I didn't put so much responsibility on myself.
When people say, oh, you Chinese students only know how to study, right? You
Yeah.
Chinese students are always nerdy. You got a high score, but you know, you're not fun. What would you say?
It's just a world that's so diverse and has so many kinds of people. You can't really define a race. You can't define a country only by only little portion of people. You have to look at the world with like different values.
What do you think, Roger?
Well, I mean, the nerdiness aspect of it definitely exists, right? So it's like, oh, you're good at math. There are certain stereotypes that puts upon Asian in general and Chinese in specific.
But there's nothing wrong with good at math, right?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with good at math. And then if I were to be asked the questions like, oh, you guys are supposed to be good at math and you're Asian, I was like, come to one of our parties and I'll show you what's up, right? So it's just, yeah, I mean, there are multi-dimensional approach to how to look at a person, right? And then, like Jessie said, we are the way that other people learn about us, and we are the one that go out there and talk about China, and the way that we perceive it in this modern world. So it is absolutely our responsibility to do so, and then I feel absolutely honored to be put upon this responsibility, this onus on my shoulder. And at the same time, I'm just trying to show a dynamic side of Chinese as students, international students.
You know, Shang, when people talk about China these days, they say, oh, you're a fast-growing country, but you're taking away our jobs. Or you're taking all the best jobs because your scores are high in school. But you know, we're not bad either. We also want part of that. Why are you taking our opportunities away? When you hear questions like this, I just wonder, how would you respond to that?
First, I would tell them that probably the information they receive is problematic. You know, they're probably by some biased sources. Because from my perspective, I feel, and I'm going to tell them the truth that, you know, instead of taking their jobs, you know, instead of making their lives worse, we the Chinese, we're actually making their lives better. You know, we produce a lot of cheap goods that sort of enable them to enjoy a better life. And then the next thing I'm going to tell them is, I mean, as human race, we should embrace progress together instead of each person just taking benefits for his or her own.
But what do you think, Tony?
I can have like a quite opposite view on this question. So we are taking a lot of jobs away from like the countries like the United States, because if you think in this way, the world going to be more flat in the future, and a lot of basic work going to be replaced by the cheap labors. And in the past 2 decades, in the history, we always can get the cost much cheaper by using different strategies. On the first decade, we can lower the cost by using cheap labors. And on the second decade, we can lower the cost by using more big data, all the fancy systems right now we have. And if you take a look on the employees we have, on the artificial intelligence industry, 2 countries has the most 2 top talents are United States and China. So we're not only powered by the cheap labors, but nowadays we also actually benefit from the top tier talents. So my point is the world going to be more competitive on the labor market, and we are pretty much taking away a lot of jobs.
Interesting. Felix?
In my opinion, I think that's how the world running the business. So if we can have the ability to get a job, that's what we can do.
It's about competition.
Yeah, if
Whoever
other people
is better,
can't.
no matter where you're from.
Yeah, if you can't, you need to change, you need to do something more. So no matter which country you're from. So.
Actually, I have an add-on on this question. We are actually taking their jobs, but I think Chinese are sacrificing much more than American in their country, actually, because you know, it's very difficult for Chinese students, especially Asian male, to get a good job in America right now. For example, if you are seeking for a job in investment banking or consulting, Asian male, especially for Chinese, they are the least favored group, I think.
Where did your number come from?
All of us were working on recruiting session. This is like a data everybody know in U.S. It is so difficult for us to get in top tier IBD or consulting company, much more difficult than local American, and also very difficult for us to get in top graduate school, because there are probably only 2 spots open for Chinese. And actually, we're not competing with American, we're competing with each other within the Chinese community, actually, or competing with Korean, Japanese, or Indian. And also, the policy is changing right now. We're being less favored, I have to say.
Is it fair?
It's not fair, but China is growing better and better. So staying in U.S. is not absolutely the top choice for us right now. You know, probably 2 or 3 decades ago, when we were just starting the open and reform policy in China, most of the overseas students, like us, their first choice is staying in U.S., staying in UK. That's their goal to study abroad. But right now, it's totally different. My primary goal when I entered Cornell is back to China.
Over the past few minutes, it seems that you're trying to tell me how to cope with some of the harsh realities and tell me what those harsh realities are. But how can we change from being self-defensive to proactive, to let others understand us and we do the same? And maybe we can do one step further, even though it is very challenging. I don't know, so I want to knock on your door and ask your opinions. Tony.
Okay, so the word for self-defensive, I found that's quite interesting, since like I don't think they're really like self-defensive like right now. We're more like opened in the past 2 decades, I think. More students coming to study abroad, and we're not like, we don't like live there, not because we think like living there is bad, but like we do think the opportunity like for like living there. Like,
you go where the opportunities are.
Exactly. So
be a global citizen, as you said.
Yeah.
I'm a communicator. I see my job as a communicator. So I've seen over the past 2 years or 3 or so, the quote-unquote impressions others have about China have been having this pendulum change from the wow factor. Wow, China's big. Wow, China's growing fast. Wow, China's creating all of this. Wow, China's a miracle. To the fear factor. Oh, they are bad. They're taking away our jobs. They are going to be the future threatening us. They are changing all the rules. They are trying to define the world. You know, this pendulum, when you have such a pendulum change, of course it's not a reality. We all know that. But how should we understand this pendulum change from wow to fear? Kathy, may I throw that difficult question to you first?
Oh, gosh.
The one who focuses on the studies.
So I feel like when they have like a wow opinion of China, it's definitely because we are indeed growing, and we are sending more students abroad to take to learn about their academy. When it turns to fear, because they used to be like the leader of the world, and they wanted to sort of have like at least about 50% of the power of the world. So when they see a very strong competitor in the world, so they are sort of, it's actually normal that they feel like afraid. Like it's really just an example that if you do well in a math class as an Asian student, you're actually lowering the curve of the exams and the final grade. So it's normal that like some local students, they are doing poorly relatively than Asians. They are a little bit afraid of us being in the same classroom with them. Yeah, so I think it's pretty just like a natural thing.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
Can you accept that? Or would you feel angry about that, or
I mean,
indifferent?
Yeah, I'm proud to have them be afraid.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Should we try to communicate with them, Felix?
The reason I think the foreign people like wow to China is because probably they don't understand, they don't know how hard Chinese people working and study. After they know, probably the wow will be louder. So I think like when I travel and working in the other countries, especially in Europe, probably Chinese use a lot of time more than the Europe people do. So that's why the country can development so fast. So.
But you know, people would also argue that, you know, without globalization, without other markets open up to the Chinese goods, without other opportunities open up to the Chinese who are like you, who want to seek opportunities globally, you will not have the future or the realities that you have right now. So China should be grateful, on the other hand. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I think so. If we still keep going on this way, and other country or other people still stay there, we will absolutely go, or will be better than the others.
China is developing so fast. Does China also have a responsibility to explain to the others what we are really about? I'm not saying we're guilty in any way. I'm just saying, should we explain better to the others, or try to explain once and again, despite of the difficulties of communications?
Explain why we developed
what we
so
are
fast.
About?
Yeah, we can explain, but it's also the other countries' ability to know about us. Like if we want, we can explain, but it's not like we have to do that. But if the other countries people want to know about us, they can absolutely welcome. They come. Yeah.
Jesse?
Yeah, I think it's good for China to explain to others, because you know, we can share the advanced technology, we can share the secret of our success to them by helping them. And also, I think this question probably connecting with the question you just raised about being defensive or turn to being proactive. I think, you know, we're talking about relationships between nations. And then I think it's the same between student groups in college. Because we are the leaders, we were the leaders of the Chinese student organizations. Some of the CSSA or the Chinese community, they're just hanging out with each other within the Chinese community. So others will think, you guys are working hard, you guys have good grades, you guys are taking our jobs, you never talk with us. But some of the student organizations, like Cornell's, we are reaching out. We are connecting, we are cooperating with other international groups. We're cooperating with the Global Initiative Office. So they're knowing well what we're doing, and they're knowing well how we achieve the success. So we turn the envy to respect. I think that's the progress of the product of communication. Communicating with other countries is good. That's why I think that. So same thing apply to the relation between nations. We can share the secrets of our success, hard working, good policy making. I think that the communication is very necessary among the countries, among the leaders of the countries.
If I ask every one of you, what do you think are some of the most important points that we really, you personally, and you know, your group, your association, or China even as big as a country, should communicate better with the others? What would you say? Give me one example and why that is important. Sean?
The one point that I want to stress to my counterpart is we are having good views. So we are not you know, out there to hurt them. We're not out there to exploit them. We're not there to take their resources like, you know, some countries have done previously. And it's important that we do that, because I think one reason that they fear is because they don't understand China. They think that China is, you know, a country that is going to all out with brute force to take whatever opportunity from them. And for us, as students, I think we are, because we are young and naturally we are classmates with many of the Westerners, it's important for us to tell this story to them.
How would you tell them? How would you convince them?
There are a few ways that I think we can do that. The first is we keep telling them that. Like, I think it's actually pretty important, they're saying that, you know, a lie repeated 1,000 times becomes a truth. But of course, we're not even repeating a lie, we're repeating a truth. And I think it's one of the, and secondly, we should show them the facts and tell them in the way that the Westerners will understand it.
You would tell?
How China has contributed to the United Nations, for example. How China has, I think China has now become one of the major donors of the UN. at this stage, and basically, as China grows, is taking more responsibility.
I see. Roger, anything?
The idea should be quite simple, right? It's just we're here to help, and then we're more than willing to open up, and then we're not trying to here to conquer or destroy, right? I wanna tie back to a previous point that you mentioned about the wow factor and the fear factor about it, right? I think fear generated from not knowing, from unfamiliarity, right? So you do not know something first, you have the wow factor. So, oh, I didn't know that such thing existed. And then later on, you realize how powerful it is, how out of control it can be. And then it becomes fear, right? So, and then tie back to Jesse's point about communication, is the fact that it's a two-way street. I can't just keep telling you about myself, and that'll get boring, and that'll get single-minded, right? It's the idea about communication, I think, and from day-to-day life, it's about making friends, right? The more that you learn about me, you realize there are a lot of similarities between cultures, you realize that there are a lot of things that we can talk about, then there will be less fear. Knowing that I do not go out and bite, that I'm only here to have fun with people and try to help out each other from day-to-day life, I think that's the most basic we can do, and I think that's actually the only thing we can do right now, being students.
Okay. From your perspective, do you think there's an opportunity to wake up the other person?
They're not actually sleeping, they're pretending to sleep. So it's maybe, like I said, the two-way street, they're not trying to communicate. They try to come up with this imaginary story about fears and not knowing, and then saying that we're not communicating for the fact that they put the fear and a threat into other people's mind. And then it's difficult to wake them up, because they're not actually sleeping, they're just pretending. I mean, it's only one-way street until you keep trying, and then make it two.
So before we wrap up, I do want to ask every one of you, if there's one thing that you think you can do very well to communicate with the rest of the world, and they do need to listen, what would that be? Can I go with you, Kathy, first?
I mean, I would say, hey, just look at me. I'm like a concrete human being, and if you need help, I can definitely help. Just a phone call away. So don't just try to understand me as a person, as like a human being, instead of...
Don't give me all the labels.
Yeah.
Tony?
So instead of communicating and saying a lot of things to them, like I'd rather like purchase an air ticket to them and invite them to China to look and see like how people sleep here, and then they get a idea of how we're living. Then they start to probably listen.
Yeah, Phoenix?
Like for me, my undergraduate and the master both take in New York City, so I don't think I'm a foreign people in New York, because everyone is foreign people. Like in my class, probably more than half of the classmates are from the other countries, so I never think I'm a foreign people. So what I want to say is just be yourself, love your country, and if after you study abroad, you can back to your country and work for your country.
Okay. How can we make sure it's not about us versus them? I think that's very crucial. Roger, any idea?
Like what she said, it's just we come down to the individual, right? When we see each other as human beings, as a friend and as a colleague, then there isn't really him or them. It's just you and me, and it's just us.
Sean?
I think it's important to bring them to China and show them what China is, and show them that we are basically the same as them. We are the same human beings. We eat, we have fun, we play, we sleep. And yeah, I think they'll understand.
Last but not least, Jesse?
I'll introduce them my thoughts, my ideas of how we can cooperate with each other. There's not only competition. Cooperation can bring us with more value. Yeah.
Right. I'm sure bringing them over to Beijing to celebrate the Spring Festival will be a great idea. And it's not about us versus them. It's really all about us together, right? Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing with me all of your thoughts. Kathy, Tony, Felix, and also Roger, Sean, and Jesse. I got all your names right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to all of you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.